Hey everyone, in this video, we're going to look at providing some error messages when we try logging in or registering. Right now, if we're typing just some random text in here and hit login, nothing happens. It didn't log us in because these are not valid credentials, but there's no error message for the user showing them that they logged in incorrectly. So we're going to add something here to actually show the user that they did something wrong. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So to begin, what we'll do is we'll open up some line text, and I already have this page open. We're going to Pages, Account, Login. And this is where we want to go ahead and put our code for this. So the first things first is we have our login function coming from our use context. If we look at that use context file and scroll down to the bottom to see what we're exporting, you'll see here in this authentication context provider, in the value prop here, we have error already being passed in. So we're already exporting this and we already have access to it. So we can come into our login page, find this const login, and I'm going to go ahead and add error to it. This will bring in our error message into this page here. So when we have an error, it will be saved. The error message for the error, I should say, will be saved in this error field. And we can use this to actually show an error on the screen. Now, there's a few different ways we could do this. Since we're using the Material UI version 4 library, what we can do is we can go look at their docs. And since I started this series, they released version 5. To keep things simple, I'm going to keep using version 4. So up here on the top left, you can click V4. If you want to use V5, you can, but some of your imports will be different and the way you install will be a little different. But if you want to go through the docs, you can probably figure out the version 5 version for all this. But anyway, if you look at the docs here, we go to components and we go to down here to Snackbar. You'll see what we have here. We click open Snackbar on this example. It opens up this little thing here. We can open up the success. And these are the little things that we're going to show. We're going to show one. We're not going to mess with these error colors right now. We're going to keep it simple and just show something here in the top center of the screen that shows the error message. So we look at position snack bars. You can see we have different options. We can go top center, top right, bottom center, bottom left, or top left. So we can put it anywhere we want. In our case, we're going to put a message right here with the error message showing up in the top center of the screen. So there's different examples here you can look through about how to do different things. I'm going to go through a really basic example right now to get this set up. So what we'll add first is we're going to add the Snackbar component somewhere on our page. And I'm going to go ahead and add that right below my layout. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and add the Snackbar. And so what this will be a Snackbar tag, Snackbar. And then we'll need to put an anchor origin like that. And this will equal a object here. So actually we'll put two curly braces because we want to put an actual object inside of this statement here. And this will be vertical. And we'll put a colon, and then we'll put a string of wherever we want it to go. So this could be, in the case of the example here, if you show the full source code, it could be a string of top and center, which we'll use in our case. It could be top and right, bottom and right, etc. So we're going to go ahead and do top and right. So our vertical will be top, and then our horizontal will be center to put it at the top center of the screen. Okay, and now that we have that, let's go ahead and add the rest of our props here. So we'll need to go ahead and add an open. This will be equal to a state value, which we'll call open, and we'll define that here in a second. We'll need an on close, and this will be equal to a function called handle close. Then we'll need an auto hide duration to make it automatically close at a certain point in time. So that's equal to 6,000. And then we need to go ahead and set a message. This will be equal to a state value called error message, which we'll define here in a second. And then we need to go ahead and put a key as well. I'm going to go ahead and just put a key of top underscore center for now. That should work fine. Okay. So now with those changes done, this is going to break our application because we need to define everything we just put in here. So first things first, let's import Snackbar. So up here at the top, we can import that from this import statement right here, button card, content, all this other stuff here. Go to the end of this, and we'll add Snackbar to it. Okay, and that should fix that. Now we need to go ahead and define open, handle close, and error message. So let's go ahead and define the two state values, open and error message first. So up here at the top right here at the top of the export function, we're gonna add two more state values. So right here, I'll add a const square brackets, put open and set open. And this will be a use state, and the default value will be false. And so when we want to open this, we'll set this to true. So we can just kind of switch it back and forth between true and false to open it up or to close it. And then we'll add another state value here of error message. And this will be the message that we actually display on our screen. And we'll need this here in a little bit later to fix a bug that will show up. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it here for now. And this default value will be null. That should be fine. Okay, and now the last thing we need to define from all of this is our handle close function. So whenever we close this, we want to go ahead and call this handle close function. And I'm not going to add an X button icon on here, but if you want to do that, that's what this would really be for. But I'll go ahead and add it anyway, just so we can add that later if we decide we want to. So I'll go ahead and go underneath my submit handler here. I'm going to go and create a new function, const handle close. This will be equal to an arrow function, so just like that. And inside of here, all we need to do is do set open and set to false. So this state value will either open or close it, and we want to close it, set to false, and true will open it. So that's all we need to do in that function. Okay, now I think that should be everything defined that we need. Let's go ahead and double check. Come back here, refresh the page, make sure everything still works. Okay, great. So the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and open the snack bar somehow. And so what we'll do is we'll check if this error message changed. If it did change, we want to go ahead and open the snack bar and set open to true. So what we'll do here is we'll import use effect. We'll put our logic inside of here. And what this will allow us to do is put a dependency on this use effect of the error state value. And whenever that changes, we can run the use effect. So up here, what I'll do I'll do I'll do use effect. This will be an arrow function. And now, just to test if this works, what we'll do is we'll do if error. We want to go ahead and first set our error message state value to be error. And then we're going to go ahead and do set open to true. And then down here, after the curly braces for this, I'll put a comma and put an array. And this is where we can put our dependency array at. And so I'll go ahead and put error inside of here. And so now whenever this error value changes, all this logic will run. So that's what we're doing here. Okay, let's go ahead and save that now, jump back into here, refresh the page. Could not access error before initialization. So I must have, what did I do wrong? Oh, I put this use effect above the initializing the variable inside of this const use effect line here. So what I'll do is I'll grab this line here, I'll cut this out, and I'll put it, we'll put it, I guess, right here. Okay, and now with that done, we'll save this and we'll jump back into this page here. And let's try this again. So we'll see this is popping up here right now, and I'll get back to this in a second. But first, let's put some wrong data in and hit login. And it doesn't look like we're getting our error message. So to test this out and see what we might be doing wrong here, let's go ahead and first just console log the error message. So right here, I'll do a console.log error. We'll save that. We'll come back here. I'll go ahead and refresh the page. And I'll go ahead and put in some data here and hit log in. So it doesn't look like our error message is updating correctly right now. Looks like we might have an error somewhere else. Let's go ahead and double check this real quick. Oh, you know what? This is actually a really basic issue. I just was not really paying attention. There's only one and here. There should be two. You probably caught that. That was not a big issue to fix at all. We put that there. We save that. We come back here and refresh the page here. That should fix that problem. And there we go. Okay, yeah. So I just missed that completely. So we have this working kind of correct now. It shows our issue here, But you'll notice one issue here. If we go to our register page and we come back, it still shows this error message. And that's because the state value never got removed. So it still has that same error message in the state. So what we need to do is we need to somehow clear out that error message after we've shown it. And so to do this, I'm going to go ahead and create a new function inside my authentication context that will just clear out the state value here. So we'll just take this and set it back to this original null value. So I'll come down here to the bottom of my file here, and I'll do const clear error. This will be set just to a normal function equals normal function. This does not need to be async because we're not doing any sort of a wait call inside of it. And all we'll call here is just set error to be null. And then we can go ahead and add this down here to our value prop to make sure we can use it across our function or across our application. We'll add clear error. Okay, and now back in our login page here, we can bring that in from our state. So next to error here, I'll put a comma and I'll put clear error to be able to have access to this function. And then what we're doing here is we're seeing if there's an error, and we're only run this when the error message changes. So what we can do here is we can set the error message in our state. We can then set open to true to show it. And then after that, we can go ahead and just call clear error after we've shown the message, then to clear the error out of the state. And that will fix it from showing back up. So now we come back here, we do a refresh, and we'll come here and we'll log out whatever wrong data. It will then show no active account found with the given credentials. We'll jump back to register and back to login, and that error message does not show up again. And it works like it should be. And it works just how we expect it to. Okay, so now that's working for our login page. We want to go ahead and just do the same thing for our register. So what we'll do here is we will go to our register.js, and we're going to pretty much just copy most of this logic in again. So I'm going to actually first grab all of my Snackbar stuff here. So I'm going to go and just copy this. And we'll go ahead and paste that inside our register.js. So we'll come down here. We will come down to right inside of our layout. Right here, we'll paste that right there. And then we need, once again, need to find open, handle close, error message. I'm going to go ahead and just grab these from our previous, from the login function. I'll grab these two state values and I'll paste that right underneath here. And then I'm going to go grab that function as well. Let's see here, right here, the handle close. We'll grab this as well and we'll paste that. We'll put it below our submit handler. Should work right there. We'll save that. We also need to make sure we bring Snackbar in up here at the top. So I'll go ahead and import Snackbar as well. I think that might be it. Let's see if this works now. No. Let's see here. Oh, I put the Snackbar in the React import. Let's make sure we put that inside of our Material UI import right down here. Okay, and now we'll come back here and reload the page again. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead and actually make this open whenever we put some bad data in. So let's go back to the code here. And let's come down here. And first we'll bring in error and clear error from our use context. We'll go ahead and make sure we have use state, or use effect, imported up here. So we'll add use effect. And then we'll come back down here. And we'll put this, we'll make sure we put it below this line or bring this line up higher because we need to make sure we have access to error before we call this. So use effect, and we'll make a normal use effect just like this. And then once again, add a dependency array and pass an error. Do if error. And then just like before, we look at our login. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and set the error message, set it open to true, and then clear the error message after we've shown it. So I'll go and just copy that and paste that in here. And that should be good. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's go ahead and try this out. So if I put in an email, it doesn't have, just put a bunch of random data and make sure passwords don't, we'll make sure the passwords match, I guess, at first. Hit login. And we're getting something went wrong. And I must have copied this over and over again because I have the same typo in this file or this function as well as this function down here. Sorry about that. Make sure we have those things fixed like that. Let's go ahead and try this again. And now if we look at the same thing again, we go to register, look at our response, we're getting nothing back. So this route that we're going to right here, we can see it's localhost 3000 API/register. So let's double check our register function in our API folder and see what there might be an issue here with. So if we look actually at our terminal first, you'll notice here that we are getting our error messages back from our server. So our Python API is working correctly, but our register API function here is not returning the errors correctly. So let's go ahead and double check that. So to figure out what this issue is, let's go ahead and do a console.log, and we'll log error.response.data. And now we come back here, we submit this request again, and we look at our terminal here. What are we getting back? We're getting back our data inside of this object here. So it's a little different. Error message is a little different in this case. So we need to go ahead and change how we return it. So what we'll do, if we look at what we're actually returning here, we're returning error.response.data.detail. And so if there's not a detail, we want to go ahead and make sure it's different. So what we'll do here is we'll do an if error.response.data.detail. We'll go ahead and just do this. Else, we need to do something differently. So we'll cut this out here. We'll put this here. And then we'll go ahead and add just an else if right here. And we'll do if error.response.data. So if there's no detail and there's just a data object, then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and return a error message from this. And so you could go ahead and try to make, like a long string of all the different error messages. I'm going to go ahead and just show the first one for now. And then once they fix that, if they don't fix the second one, that second error message will come up the second time. So what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and just do a set of variable of first key. This will be equal to object.keys. And we'll pass in error.response.data. And then we'll put at the very end here 0 to get the very first key out of that array. So what object.keys is doing is it's grabbing this right here and it's creating an array with all of the keys for this object. So looking at what we have here, we have this object, and so it's creating an array. At index 0 is username, at index 1 is email. We're grabbing the username key from that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and return a res.status 401.json, and then we'll go ahead and pass it a message, and we'll set this to first key.char at 0, and then we'll go ahead and call to uppercase on that first char. So we'll do that to uppercase and put in some parentheses at the end here. So what we're doing is we're taking the username key, we're taking the very first character, the U in this case, of username, and we're going ahead and we are making it capitalized just to make our error message look a little better is all we're doing. Then we'll do a plus first key dot slice, and we'll pass in 1. And so what we're doing here is we're taking the very first letter, making it capitalized, adding that to our error message, then adding on everything after that. And so like in arrays, what we are doing is we are grabbing the index at index 1, which is the second position because indexes start at 0. So 0 being this one right here, we're capitalizing that, then we're grabbing everything after that and putting that right after it. So we have the whole username character, whole username string showing up in our error message. Then we'll add a colon, then we'll add our actual error message. So right here, I'll do a plus, and then we'll add a colon with a space, plus error.response.data, and then we want to go ahead and grab the error message for this first key. So in square brackets, I can do first underscore key and then 0, because if you look at this, this is an array. So since there is an array, we need to go ahead and grab the first key to grab the actual string inside of that array. Okay, and now with that done, we save that. Let's go ahead and test this out and see if this is working now. So then we'll come back here. We'll refresh the page. Let's go ahead and put some random data in here. Make sure the passwords match and hit login. And there we go. So now we have our error message shown correctly. Email, enter a valid email address. Okay, so that's one downside of Axios, that the error messages change, and you might need to change how you're catching them, which can be a little confusing. Hopefully that made sense. If not, I'll go over it one more time real quick, just to make sure that makes sense what we're doing. I believe we have one error message, this will run. And that's what we did wrong, is that we didn't account for multiple error messages. And so if there's not a detail, in the case of when we have multiple error messages, what it's going to do is it's going to try to say this won't run because it doesn't match. There's no detail. So this whole if statement here won't run. So instead we'll add an else if right here, and then we'll check if error.response.data. So if we have a response back, there should be a data object on that. And so in this case, we had a data which had an object of key value pairs of all of our error messages. Then we're grabbing the very first key by using object.keys, passing in that error.response.data object, and then getting the one at the very first index, which is the 0 index. We're then returning an error message, and what we're doing here is taking the first letter of this string, because if you look at it, what we're getting back here is we're getting back username all lowercase. And so I'm taking that first letter, making it capitalized, and then adding on the rest of the string after that. So the SCRNAME will show up with this line right here. And so then we're putting the whole thing together into one word, just capitalizing the first letter. Then writing this colon to separate the error message, and then we're grabbing the actual error message for this key. So we can do error.response.data to get the object, pass in the first underscore key to get the username key, and then 0 because this is an array and we want the actual string inside of that array. So we do 0 to get the first element from that, which is the string that we want. And we're returning that into our front end, and then it shows up right up here. Okay, that was a lot, but hopefully that made sense. So now there's one more issue we need to fix. If we were to come here, we were to type in random stuff here, make sure the passwords don't match. We'll get that email error here, but our passwords do not match is still a console.error string in our console. So let's go ahead and make a change to that to make sure that works correctly. So in our submit handler, so we want to do here is we want to go ahead and make this check in our context and then return it as an error message. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this if statement right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump into my authentication context. And I'm going to go to my register function. And inside of here, we're getting back username, email, and password. I'm going to go and add on password 2 here. Go back to the register account page. Make sure we add that to our call. So right here, username, email, password. And then we have password 2. And this is that state value up here at the top. So this state value, make sure we're passing that in as well. And then what we'll do back here is we'll do that same logic we did in our front end, but we're going to do it over here in our authentication context so we can set the error message here. And so what I'll do is at the very beginning of the function, if password does not equal password 2, what we're going to do is do set error. It'll pass in a string of passwords do not match. And then we're going to go ahead and return out of this function. So we want to make sure that passwords match before we actually run any API call. If not, we'll send this error back this way. Now, if I come back here, I go ahead and type in anything there. Let's go ahead and make sure our email is valid. So we'll just do, actually, it shouldn't matter. We'll go ahead and put anything in there. Make sure the passwords don't match. Hit login. And now we're getting back an error message saying passwords do not match. And then if we make sure the passwords match, 123, 123, log in. Now we're getting that email is invalid. If we make sure we have a valid email and hit log in, all the requirements were met. So it goes ahead and sends the request through, and now we're logged in. Okay, so there we go. Now we've handled all of our errors. That was kind of a lot, and we had some issues from previous videos we had to go clean up, but hopefully that all made sense. We want to make sure we move this back to our authentication context because it's only here where we can actually set that error state value, which is why I moved it over here. And also, in case you were wondering why we created this set error message state value, if you don't do this and you just use this error message, you might think you could just take this error message and plug it into your Snackbar down here. When I was doing that, I was running into all sorts of errors. And so to prevent any of those issues from happening, I would go ahead and just put that error message in a state value and only show in your JSX stuff from the state values. You can try that. It might work better for you than it did for me, but it was much easier just to create a new state value and pass it in there and use that to display, and then clear the actual error message from our context after we show it. So that was the easiest and most simple way to do it that I found. So hopefully that all made sense of why we decided to do it that way. But that is it for this video. We have all the error messages working for our auth pages. So that pretty much finishes up everything to do with authentication for this application. Hopefully that all made sense. If not, feel free to ask a question and I'll try to help you out if I can. But that is really it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.